Hello, everyone, and welcome to Ask T3. I'm your host, Nick Bailey, Chief Real Estate Officer here at T360. We're glad you joined us. We are so excited about this episode coming up because there seems to be a lot of chat going on about the MLS world, CCP, and all the subjects around it. Ties to associations, open MLSs, non-member, all those things we're going to cover today. But before we go there, just remember, you can always check us out at askt3.com. We want to hear from you to be part of the conversation. Ask your questions, send them directly to us, even give us an episode idea. And you can also check us out on LinkedIn, Facebook, and YouTube. So let's get started in today's episode. We have awesome two guests. And of course, this is all about big questions and smart answers. And we have two people that I know have the smart answers on this subject. So please welcome John DiMichele. He is the CEO of the Toronto Regional Real Estate Board. Hi, John. Thanks for joining us.
Hi, Nick. Thank you for having me.
And we also have Denee Evans. She is the CEO of MLS. So we've got John has the largest board in North America, which we were talking earlier. That means the largest in the world. That means the largest in the universe. So we've got the top guy. And of course, Denee being so well connected to so many different MLSs with different spiders. Thank you both for being here. Okay, let's jump in. First question, is the landscape of MLS really changing, or are we just talking about it? Denee, maybe start with you.
Sure. I think, so I've been here 10 years now, and I think that it really is starting to change. And I think that the conversations I'm having with people about the conversations they're having in their own market, they are fundamentally different. They are really exploring what are the things that we used to hold sacred, or the sacred cows, and would have never even been brought up in a board meeting. And it's rarely that I have a conversation with anyone that they don't have that on their board meeting agenda, and they're not exploring some of these answers that would have just been so, just not even an option a few years ago.
And give us examples. What are one or two of those things that you're seeing that you're kind of surprised about?
Well, one I think is the relationship with the associations, MLSs, and their partnership with the association. How is that tied, and what does our future look like between membership in both, right? And how do they work together? There was the core standard or best practice that was put out a few years ago, even by NAR, that MLSs should have their own strategic plan. Now that just seems like a simple thing that should have happened now. And I see that I'm going off screen, having the technology challenges, talking about whether or not and how people access the MLS, what is their partnership with the association, and what does that look like for us going forward?
I agree. I think that is going to be a big change. John, how about you? What are you seeing from your landscape just as a whole? Obviously, two countries, but North America, real estate's done in a very similar way, but there are some nuanced differences between the countries. So how is this impacting you, and how will maybe what you're doing impact the U.S.?
I think we're lucky, all of us, that we have what we refer to as the gold standard, and what the world looks at as the gold standard of MLS. And they wish they could be like us, and they aspire to be like us. The MLS has two components. One is the technology side, which is the data, which I don't see a lot of change. I see enhancements there. I just don't see fundamental changes to how the data is collected and distributed to members who are serving as a trusted professional to consumers. So the consumer still has the basis of that. But what seems to be changing and emanating from our friends to the south are some of the cooperative rules, the cooperative aspects of how real estate or the MLS helps. And that's where I think the pressure really lies. But, you know, again, it is this cooperative that is so important. Without that cooperative, we go back to the 50s, like we had talked earlier, that, running around looking for listings, driving your clients or them going by a listing and seeing a sign that they actually don't have access to through the MLS. I think these are the core issues that are going to either diminish its value or actually hurt the MLS.
So let me ask this. If you had to forecast, and let's use some of T360's data, because the research and the analysis that we do is pretty significant. And even from just the 2025 trends report and noted in the opportunity report that came out this year is consolidation. We talked about it on a previous Ask T3 episode. You look at, we've gone down by 20.1% in the number of MLSs just since 2017. But interesting enough, when you take the membership, because people are crossing over into other MLSs, has actually increased by over 34%. And so it's interesting how the number of MLSs has come down, but the membership as a whole has gone up. Fast forward, I'd love your crystal balls. Is every MLS 1, 2, or 5 years from now not going to be associated with an association, be totally independent? Denee, what do you think?
I think we're going to see a lot bigger number because we have to look at the market needs going forward, and what does that relationship between the MLS and association look like, and how are they serving those members? I also think the consideration of what is the market does in the way of increasing that membership or reducing it by how the housing market is playing out, and then the conversation between an MLS and an association of finding their lane. What are they both really, really good at? And then leveraging each of those resources. And I think that in the past, it's always been the MLS and the association were muddled together. There weren't as bright of a lines between the two. And that's what I'm hearing coming out today, which I think is an opportunity for both the MLS and the association. The association can get really good and really clear about what they do and what they kick butt at, and the MLS at the same time. And if you just think of what it takes to run an MLS today, it is so different than 5 years ago when I started 10 years ago. And how quickly technology is changing. We've got to grab these opportunities and make sure that the MLSs are doing MLS really, really well and evolving and innovating, and the association has a really important role. And let's go focus on that, but they have to be good partners. So I do see, I think we'll continue to see, I don't know if consolidation is the word I use anymore between MLSs, but collaboration. So, right, all the members of an MLS have to collaborate and cooperate. And I think now MLSs are cooperating a lot more of how they provide the best service to their members, to this marketplace. And I'm seeing some really great partnerships with associations and MLSs as being separate entities. So yes, we have to explore that. I do think we'll see more of it going forward. What the exact amount is or percentage, I didn't have that done on my calculator yet, but I'll think about it.
Maybe not 100% is what I'm hearing, that it's still going to happen. There's going to be a trend, but not 100%. And John, let me ask you this. Canada's different. 35 MLSs across the entire country don't quite have the overlapping footprint, but are you still seeing some of this same thing happen for you?
It's there. We spun off an RMLS, our technology provider, from TREB. And so TREB is the association, and we have a wholly owned subsidiary of PropTex Innovations, Inc. So I'm the CEO of that as well. And was one of the things I had in our RFP and the vision I presented to our board was that I think eventually these two entities should be separate, and because they do have distinct functions. And so now with PropTex being independent, we were able to negotiate with and help consolidate 14 other associations into, they've merged in many cases because they saw that this was the right path, and they've all joined our MLS. So that's eliminating the concept of the overlapping market disorder, which we've been fighting for years here and in the US. But that seems to be solving itself in the consolidation, but we still have it here as well. So the concept of having to be a dual member of more than one association, some people do it because they like the marketing aspect, but we just want to get rid of the idea that you have to pay twice to get all the data. And I think we've gone from having this overlapping market disorder now with some people balking at CCP and our realtor cooperation policy. We're developing this overlapping brokerage disorder where, brokers are sequestering and hiding listings, which again takes us back into the 20 years ago where you had to drive around to find out all the listings. We're doing our best to solve it on one side, and then we're hurting ourselves on the other.
Is Canada considering anything like what has been announced, like in the US with clear cooperation and delayed marketing? Is that even on the table? Because if it's my understanding, keep me honest here, that you have pretty strict rules about display within MLS that are much tighter than this delayed marketing aspect.
We do. We have realtor cooperation policy, which mirrors pretty much CCP. But in our own MLSs, we create our own rules as well, how we interpret that. And ours is pretty tight. But again, consider who loses if the listings are not being if we're not having that one fundamental piece of transparency within the MLS. So not only do the realtors lose, but the consumers lose. And it skews your market statistics. There's just so many things that go wrong when you do that. So yeah, we're pretty ardent in our approach. We want to make sure that both our members and the user groups are served so that they can serve their clients and give them the evidence that they need to make a confident decision when buying or selling, right?
Denee, let me ask you this. I mean, the industry knows about all the chatter that's happening with CCP. So I don't want to rehash all of that today, but where do you think this is going to end up?
There is definitely a lot of chatter and a lot of opinions, but I think as an industry, where I hope it ends up is that we really put the consumer as the North Star and we make decisions that serve the consumers and not necessarily shareholders. And I am a firm believer in competition. I'm one of the most competitive people you might meet. And so I think that's the beauty of the MLS though, right? It helps foster competition among brokers. And so to make sure, it used to be faux pas to say that we were creating a level playing field, but that really truly is the role of the MLS and why it is the envy of the rest of the world. And so I am hopeful and optimistic the industry will make decisions and push forward to continue to create this marketplace, a sufficient marketplace of MLS, where the consumers have access to all of the listings. And I think one of the other pieces of that doesn't always resonate or get brought up as much, that the agents don't have access to all the information, right? And that's one of the biggest tools as an agent to serve your clients is you have all of the inventory at your hands. And if we get to a place where we're being fractured and you have to go into offices or call other places just to know, that puts you at a disadvantage to the consumer. And I think that puts us as an industry as a disadvantage to the consumer, that, keeping that marketplace robust and thriving benefits the entire industry, but ultimately it serves the consumer. So that's where I hope we land. I'm optimistic about that. And I'm hearing a lot of great conversations about getting us there.
And let me ask you this. Obviously, there are brokers that have been in headlines that have some opinions on this. And I think it's awesome that, we have an industry that challenges each other. I think that is actually a good thing. But let me ask you this. Are agents really in tune with some of these policies? Are you hearing from your memberships on the agent level, not the broker level, of what they want or have an opinion? Because I haven't seen much on the agent opinion on this, mainly the broker opinion. What are your thoughts?
What first comes to mind is if you read the comments when things are posted online, sometimes you get those opinions. And so I don't think we have like a formal gathering of that, but in talking with individuals, and I think also I like to think that some of the most informed agents in the industry are the ones that serve on boards of directors of MLSs, because they're helping to shape what these marketplaces look like. And I feel like as an industry, we have some really great people around those boardrooms. Some of them are practicing, some of them are managing brokers or owners of their companies. And so there's a nice mix in there. And I think that's a lot what's informing the MLS marketplace, right? Everyone says the MLS. And I always get a little irritated because the MLS is realtors and brokers and agents and like that's who makes it up, the people that are out in this industry. So by way of that and how we're creating this marketplace, I'm going to say that's the more official how we know what we're doing with the industry and the decisions of what they want. And I try not to read too many of the comments because that is always an adventure of insights.
I heard good advice from a celebrity on television last week. You post and ghost. It's the best way. Put your posts out there, ghost the comments, and you'll be fine.
Right.
John, how about you on that subject? I mean, I look at this too, the associations, and is there a place or a day where we see all this discussion and hype around, say, a CCP, which is the hottest topic right now in this arena, to then where associations are not tied to the MLS, and now do MLSs in every market just start creating all their own new rules? And does this create a whole nother new set of challenges that maybe we haven't even thought about?
Yes, it does, and it will. There is, people don't like uniformity, but this is one area where we need uniformity. And I think, I said this earlier, and I can hear people's eyes roll when I say, you guys sneeze, we catch the cold. And my example would be coming soon. So I had a guy in my neighborhood who had his listing coming soon for 6 months. To me, that's not coming soon. I don't know what that means. That's a coming never. And, rules to allow the consumer to have the best possible opportunity to buy a property that they want to buy and set up their lives and start their wealth journey. These are important, even in the consumer, the commercial field. So you look at commercial, people buy these properties to start a business or expand a business or have an opportunity to do something else. But it's bizarre to me that we think it's okay to take these properties and hide them, and then the consumer complains when they can't find a property and say there aren't a lot of listings out there, and you've got those two different narratives. Yeah, I think there has to be a better approach, something that we talk about all the time at CMLS. Something that is consumer focused, because that's really where the rubber meets the road. You can have these trusted professionals armed with all the data that they want, and they can, to give it to their consumer so that they can actually accomplish their dreams. And that's where I get really frustrated. Because as a seller, the promise to the seller is, I'm going to sell your property at the highest amount of money in the shortest amount of time, in the most convenient way for you. That's the promise. So if I can't give that information to the entire buying marketplace, then am I doing the right thing for this seller?
It's a great question. So what are those things, kind of from both of you, as we think about this? What are people not talking about maybe that we should be? Does anything come to mind of things that are on the horizon or happening in the boardrooms, or with some of these things that are not making the headlines that we should be talking about?
I think one of the interesting dynamics of our industry is we need to evolve and change, right? Technology is changing, consumer needs and wants, and all of this is changing. And in order to serve this at the MLS level, the CEO, John, has to do things to change up and move and evolve. And if there's one thing that I think I'm pretty confident in saying in this industry, people who moved my cheese and causing the discomfort of changing where a button is, or just something as simple as that in the everyday life of the professional. So I think it's this interesting dynamic and how we can work better together as an industry by actually embracing change versus being so opposed to it, because John's job is to bring in new things, right? Shake it up, change it up. They've got prop techs. They've done some really amazing stuff. And I know I talk to him all the time about the cool new things he's doing, but really what he's doing is causing constant change for his members and subscribers in how they use technology and what they do. And even in the boardroom, right? The discomfort they're going to get when all this change is happening. I have one MLS exec who did like 8 different things that were so cool, but the membership really struggled because it's it's changing their tools every day. And so how can we as an industry adopt and embrace and even celebrate more change? Right now, I think it gets talked about. MLSs get a bad rap for not changing fast enough. But I can tell you from being on the MLS side that changing too fast or too much really upsets the apple cart and gets the people who use the MLS every day upset. So I think that's an interesting dynamic that I'd love to hear us talk more about, because I think it would allow us to change and innovate and move forward quicker.
I think that's a good point. I say all the time when I speak in front of groups that we talk about how fast the real estate industry is changing. And if you pause for a moment, take yourself out of your own industry and look at all the consumer tech that we use for all the other parts in our lives on a daily basis, I think we could argue that it doesn't change as fast as we think. And we could probably speed that up. John, what are your thoughts?
So fundamentally, people want to buy and sell property. They want to have a home. They need to rent properties. They need to lease spaces as well. So that's never going to change. Right? I mean, we can all agree that that's going to be a fundamental, foundational piece to the real estate industry. I think we have to decide if we're going to move forward or we're going to regress. And I think this concept that I keep hearing out there, how people want to make some changes, and I won't be specific about what they are, but to me, it looks like we're moving backwards. We all know that the consumer benefits from what realtors do. They're the trusted, knowledgeable professionals that help them do that. I just hope one day that they don't start saying, you know what, I don't want to choose this anymore. I want to choose a different way because I'm not confident with this. I think the measure here is whether the consumer is happy with what's going on. I think that the consumer is successful in their approach and what they want to accomplish. And it should not be measured by a stock ticker or a symbol on a stock ticker. I think that is the challenge. We are now seeing organizations out there that are tied to Wall Street that want to change the business, but I'm not sure if they're actually doing it with the right end in sight. And the consumer may be challenged by that. I can't say for sure, but I know that things have changed based on what some of those symbols on the stock tickers are actually being influenced by. And I don't think that's the right approach. And I don't think the realtor on the street actually has that approach in mind either.
Interesting. I think those are all good points. Well, we know that this discussion is going to continue. And so I want to tell both of you on behalf of all of us here at T360, thanks for joining us today. Appreciate your insights. And we're going to be seeing you at the upcoming T3 Leadership Summit here in just a few days to share some additional of your insights. But John, Denee, thanks for joining us again today. We appreciate it.
Thank you so much.
Okay, everyone, thanks for joining us here. I took a couple of things away. One, make the consumer, whoever that consumer is, your North Star. And I also think Denee made a great point of saying, let's accelerate change, but at the right level so that the industry can move along with us, but it's okay to challenge ourselves in the speed at which we do it. This discussion is going to continue to be a hot topic, we believe, but I do think that as the opinions and more people get involved, the faster we'll get to a best resolution. So thanks again for joining us. Go to askt3.com, ask your questions, give us some ideas, and make sure to check back often for new episodes that are coming out twice a month. Thanks, everyone. We'll see you next time.